Welcome to Potato Sandwich, the podcast where the conversations are as interesting as a slice of raw potato between two pieces of white bread. I was thinking of saying potato bread. I like the idea of a slice of potato between two pieces of potato bread, but potato bread is too good. It's delicious. It's not boring enough. White bread, I think, is the most boring of the breads. They're those grained breads, 7-grain bread, 12-grain. Those are pretty boring. Nobody likes those. They pretend they like those. Oh, it's healthy. That's why I eat it. Yeah, that's a reason to eat it. You can eat something and also not like it. You eat it because it's good for you. You don't have to pretend those taste good, is what I'm saying. White bread itself, it's a modern miracle, I think. I don't know how they make it so fluffy. If we're talking about Wonder Bread, Sunbeam bread. I don't know what the process is, but it's pretty amazing. It's like a cloud. My name is Greg Russ. See, I told you, the show's not going to offer much. I warned you, so you can't critique it. It's baseless and a brilliant defense mechanism. Autumn Fisher not back on the show at this point. Most people have heard, if you haven't, her dad unexpectedly passed away. She had talked about his health issues on the show in the past, but this wasn't something anyone was expecting, so she's been dealing with that, and we haven't released a show in a few weeks. I could have done a better job of putting something out, but I wanted to give Autumn the space, at least with the personal issues. I still could have asked Tim Andrews to join, but it just felt like a good time to kind of hang back. If we had social media, I could have told you that was what was going on. There is an Instagram page, possibly a Facebook page for the show. To that, I say, why? These things haven't been maintained. And I know there's someone out there listening. Oh, my God, you need to post. Who cares if 2 people like it? Who cares if 15 people briefly glance at it before swiping on to the next thing? It's the only way to grow the show. You got to interact with the masses, the social media. This is the one time I thought, man, it would be nice if we had a social media following, because I could send out a statement, especially because we haven't been releasing the show on any regular cadence. It's still been coming out once a week, and I think we did the first show in January of 2019. I was pretty proud of the streak that we had going. Every week, we released a show, and for me, someone who's really lazy, I need something to lose, and a streak offers that. That's how I quit smoking. You get to the point where it's like, well, I haven't had a cigarette in 2 months. That 2 months means something to me, even if it's a mind game. You can tell yourself, hey, I'm going to reset to 0 if I have a cigarette, and then you're going to have to take 2 months to build that back up, so you don't want to throw those 2 months away. And yes, I realize that I'm comparing doing the show to quitting smoking. But look, if you're going to be honest, you do anything for any certain amount of time, there are going to be moments you question it. It doesn't mean that I don't enjoy doing the show. I know that Autumn feels the same way. We've had the discussions. There's not huge money rolling in. And even if there were, I don't think making money is the best reason in the world to continue to do something, because then it just becomes an obligation and you're putting out shit because, hey, I like that paycheck. In this instance, I'd say, if we didn't feel as though we were getting anything out of the show, and we didn't feel as though we were doing a good enough show where you were getting anything out of listening to the show, we would have stopped doing it. And the last few months, I feel as though there's been a re-engagement and the shows have been better, a bit more thoughtful. And it raises a good question. Anytime you're doing something as purely a creative pursuit, when do you stop doing it? What are the factors that determine if you continue on? I think we already hit on one of those things, and that is it bringing you any sort of fulfillment? Are you enjoying doing it? That's a very selfish pursuit, but inherently making the decision to do this in the first place is somewhat selfish. We can pretend that we're altruistic, but then what kind of asshole are you at that point? Hey, I'm going to do a podcast because I care so much about other people. I'm really going to bring something to their lives. I'm going to enrich their lives. That's what I can do. That's the kind of person I am. That's the weight I carry. That's the talent I possess. I'm doing the show not for myself. I absolutely hate it, but I'm doing it for the audience. There are elements of both. When I first got into radio, I had this idea that if I could just make someone's life better for 15 seconds, they were having a shitty day, you did something on the air, and it made them forget about that shittiness for even 15 seconds. That's an actual public service. That's something that's measurable. That's something you're bringing to an audience that's worthwhile. But there's also definitely ego involved. I started at 96.7 The Buzz, which was this weak signal in Atlanta, south of Atlanta. I think the transmitter was in Peachtree City. Clear Channel owned the signal, and they owned 96 Rock, which was a big classic rock station in Atlanta. And 99X was the alternative rock station and 96 Rock's competitor. 96 Rock just wanted to pull a little bit of 99X's ratings away so that 96 Rock would look better and they could sell advertising for more. So they launched The Buzz as the station to pull, again, a weak signal. It was never going to win in the ratings, but you pull just a little bit of the ratings away from 99X. 96 Rock looks better. Mission accomplished. In this, they don't want to spend any money. So they put a bunch of kids at the station at the time working at 96 Rock on the air under the guise of 96.7 The Buzz being a radio station broadcasting out of this guy Roach's garage. His uncle bought him the radio station. He's a stoner. Everyone on the station has a stoner name. Schwag, Dank. A guy named Fister. That has nothing to do with pot. Jesus. Even at the time, I thought, this is lame. And I was 22. Should have been right up my alley. But pot names and a guy named Fister. This is pretty lame. I couldn't use Greg, though, on the air. It wasn't cool enough, so I came up with Decker, which was something I had made up in high school because I thought I was really being funny on the first day of class. And going through the roll, one of the teachers said, hey, I'm going to go through everyone's name. If you go by a different name, let me know. And it was something that just popped into my brain. She got to my name, Greg Russ. I said, no, Decker. And she, to her credit, called me that for the rest of the semester. I look back on it now, and it's pretty fucking dumb. But when you're 17 and you get a rise out of the class, that's what you live for. I mean, unless you play football, you can just walk around like an asshole and you can threaten smaller kids by throwing fake punches their way, watching them recoil. If you don't have that kind of power, the only power you can have is laughter. And apparently that comes out of telling your teacher that you go by a name that is nonsensical. But I was able to take that to the radio and turn it into a big radio brand everyone knows of Decker. I started down this path, though, because I was talking about ego. They put other people on the air at first. They didn't even ask me to go on the air. And it really pissed me off. I would fume about it. There was this thought in my head. At the same time, there's a lot of self-doubt. And the truth is, going on the air the few times I tried to put together an air check, it fucking sucked. I wasn't good, but I knew that I could be good. But then I thought to myself, how dare you think that you could be good? Who do you think you are? Then there's the other side of it. But you're much better than these people. So what the fuck's going on here? I would throw a fit like a fucking child to myself. No one else would be around, but I'd go home and think, what the fuck? Fuck those assholes. They don't realize the talent. And then I'd go on the air and have no clue what I was doing and present something that sucked ass. All that is to say that there's definitely ego involved. Anything that any person does, there's some sort of ego involved. And you can try to kill it as much as you want. And trust me, I've tried over the years to completely get rid of my ego. It always pops back up. It's like a lizard who loses its tail and the tail respawns. It's probably not even a good thing to not have an ego, since it is a driving force. Some people's egos run wild and they treat other people like shit. But if you keep it in check, it's good to have that motivation. If you're a plumber and some other moron plumber comes in and says, this is how I change the seal in the toilet, and it's all wrong. The way they do it gets dump water all over the place and spreads bacteria, and then they're eating a sandwich after they touched the hole in the ground through which human waste had been sent to the sewers for decades previously. You think to yourself, I know how to change the seal and how to do it properly and efficiently, and that brings value. And then you can feel good about yourself. My job outside of radio and podcast, I constantly think I'm smarter and better than everyone else. I don't say it. There's no need to. What good is that going to bring? It's going to bring enemies and resentment. I don't talk that often in meetings because I feel as though a lot of people speak for the sake of speaking, whether it's fear of losing their job so they need to prove that they're doing something, if it's because they think that they know best. Quite often I just find it to be a convoluting factor that causes meetings to go on longer than they need to go on, and I don't want to contribute to that. And this is probably a cop-out because I'm not putting myself out there, opening myself up for much judgment. Though I will speak if it's something that needs to be spoken about. But there are decisions that don't necessarily affect me or my team, and I judge them constantly. And I think that's not the way I do it. Though I do realize on some level I don't actually know what's best. I don't know much, and most of us don't. And true genius lies in knowing what a piece of shit you actually are. Once you can admit to that, it's very freeing. So anyway, getting back to the reason I'm recording in the first place. I did want to release an episode saying that we will be back. In texting with Autumn, I think she wants to do an episode herself before the two of us come together to do a show again, just to talk through the emotions and everything she and her family have been through with the death of her father. I would like to have an episode where we both talk through it as much as she'd be willing to talk through it. When she first sent a text letting us all know, you could tell that she was pretty numb. And I think it's a normal reaction. There's no commentary in that. But it's a difficult thing to deal with. I haven't had to deal with it on any major level, really. My grandparents have died, but they were, in their 80s. And a couple of them had dementia. And as awful as it is to say, there is a level of relief because you don't know what kind of life the person is living when they have dementia. What is going on in the person's brain? Do they have any sense of identity? Is it a complete regression back to being a child before those thoughts are formed, before the brain is able to recognize self? There are moments seemingly where reality would pop back in. It was fleeting, but it would exist. And it requires a lot of care. Someone else has to commit a lot of time and effort. And that care didn't fall to me. And that's not to say that if there's a person you love and they required your care that you wouldn't give it. But when something like that goes on for years, it's a lot to deal with. So when a couple of my grandparents who were suffering from dementia passed away, there is a sense of that's sad and I feel sad, but also maybe it was for the best. These are complex issues and there aren't black and white solutions or either or feelings. And by stating that is in no way saying I'm glad it happened or I wished for it to happen. It's just that this took a turn for the worse, and there's a reality to this situation. It's not what I wish for it to be or what it was in the past. It is what it is right now, and how do you navigate that reality? But we'll get to this stuff when the time comes. I want to give Autumn the space that she needs to take the next step in this whole process, so she will be releasing an episode herself here very soon. I do thank everyone for their continued support over the years with this podcast. I know it strayed pretty far from the original idea, which was one topic. We'll pick one thing to talk about just as we see it. We're not going to go into depth. We're not going to go into history. Not going to spew too many facts. Again, if you remember at the beginning of this podcast, pretty lazy. I think that could have been a cool show where you really went in depth on any given topic and people learned about it. But that's not what we wanted to do. We just wanted to share our thoughts and have a normal discussion that maybe you would have with a friend. And obviously that is turned into general discussion over the years. But a lot of people who have listened from the beginning are still around. And for that, I am grateful.